The previous two videos showed how God created humans perfectly and gave them hearts of compassion and kindness. We also saw how humans turned to the opposite, cruelty, and became sinners. But even though we see these cruel behaviors, not everyone understands how human behavior changed from kindness to cruelty. In this video, I will explain it. Satan taught humans to disobey God, which resulted in sin, and sin brought the chaos and suffering we are facing today. Before we begin, let us clarify something. The serpent who misled Eve is named Satan and the devil. In Revelation, Satan is called the serpent of old, who misled the whole world. Therefore, the serpent that deceived Adam and Eve was Satan. The first sin of Adam and Eve was disobedience. In Romans 5:19, the very first sin is described as disobedience. How did they disobey? Let us look at Genesis 3:1 through 6. Satan planted doubts in Eve's mind, suggesting that God's warning that they would die was not true. Instead, he claimed that God was keeping them from becoming wise and being like him. Let's read it. Genesis 3, verse 1, New King James Version. The serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Has God indeed said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? You see how detectives ask questions? They ask not to discover the truth, but to provoke you to speak. Satan is a master at this. As the Bible calls him a cunning snake, he provoked them to know what he could use to kill them. Verse 2 and 3, And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Verse 4, Then the serpent said to the woman, You will not surely die. Satan confused her by saying that it wasn't true. They wouldn't die. Then he gave her another reason why God forbade them to eat it. Let's see it in the next verse. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Verse 6, So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Disobedience arose from the confusion that Satan created in her mind after telling her that God was playing them. This is how he confused her. You will not surely die. God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. In other words, Satan opened her eyes to doubt God, as he gave her another reason why God didn't want them to eat from the tree. Opening someone's eyes means to cause someone to realize or discover something, like finding the truth about something. Opened my eyes to the truth. There are many things that look true but are full of lies. Many people are deceived, thinking that they have found the truth. Satan is a master at that. So Satan caused them to believe that they would be like God. In other words, equal to him, even independent. The same tactics are still used today to cause breakups and encourage divorce. When they want to destroy marriages, they might say, Your husband who pretends to love you doesn't want you to be like him or to be his equal. They frame it in the name of equality and human rights and feminism. This strategy has destroyed many marriages, as people often fall for it. Nowadays, when you tell someone that their rights are being taken away, they are quick to fight for them. Returning to the story of the first sin, Satan created confusion in Eve's mind, causing her to doubt whether God truly loved them. I suppose they experienced that resentment. Resentment is the bitter feeling that arises when you realize someone is treating you unfairly. You can see even her husband couldn't resist it. You remember in the first video, we learned that God breathed into Adam's nostrils the breath of life and caused him to have the fruit of the Spirit and good qualities of humanity. On the other hand, Satan taught them to disobey and sin. Resentment suppresses that fruit of the Spirit. With resentment, kindness dies, love and joy are taken away, patience is suppressed, gentleness is gone, faithfulness is dead, and self-control is no more. As God had told them, they died spiritually since there was no fruit of the Spirit. They learned a new strange behavior, to disobey God and obey Satan. God is life and the provider. The absence of God means that life becomes difficult. God is love, and the absence of love leads to hatred. Since sin entered the world, it has affected Adam's descendants as well. Cain hated his brother and killed him. Children inherit their parents' physical traits, blood, and DNA, as well as their behavior. Additionally, parents are responsible for raising their children, which means they teach them how to behave and interact with others. As a result, children will resemble their parents both physically and behaviorally. Cain was born with a tendency toward disobedience, as seen in his conversations with God in Genesis 4, where he disobeyed him multiple times. These two sons of Adam represent all his descendants. This means some children would be like Cain, disobedient, while others would be like Abel, obedient. Exactly the culture we are living in today, where some people disobey God and others obey him. This is how sin came into the world and changed humanity. It changed how humans would behave. Sin is like a human flaw, bad behavior, and corruption. God is above all. Satan taught humans to believe they can be like him as well. This is why many people seek superiority over others and, in turn, deny God. This is why many people want to dominate each other instead of helping one another. Doing so, they hurt each other.